When did your kid come in clutch? I got a girl pregnant at 17, and my daughter became my entire world. She's 11 now, the oldest of 3 kids I share with her mom. Their mom and I were never official, just kept falling back into each other's lives over the years. 2 more kids later, we finally called it quits. I didn't fight the breakup, but I fought like hell for those kids. For 4 years, we had a system that worked. My ex liked her freedom. She disappeared on drinking benders. She called staying young. Gone for entire weekends fine by me, as long as she dropped the kids off when she said she would, and picked them up when we agreed. I didn't care what she did. I was the one driving them to therapy every Friday after school. I'd sit in that parking lot for an hour, and take them out for ice cream after, because talking about feelings is hard. I paid for the sessions out of pocket, and kept every receipt in a binder. Buddy called me paranoid. I called it prepared my daughter, like to record her therapy sessions so she could listen back later. So I bought her a phone just for that. I told her this is only for emergencies, okay? She was so excited. Life was actually good for a while. The kids were doing better in school. My daughter was helping her little brother with reading. My youngest had just started calling me daddy, and it melted me. Every time even my ex seemed more stable. I thought we'd finally figured it out. Then 3 months ago, my ex found herself a rich boyfriend, some guy who only dated single moms. That was his thing, which meant my ex suddenly wanted full custody of kids she barely spent time with. The court date she had set came by fast. I walked into the courtroom ready to fight. My lawyer barely looked at me. Courts usually favor mothers, he said, straightening his tie like this was already over. Manage your expectations. The judge was worse. Every time my ex's lawyer spoke, she nodded along. Every time my lawyer spoke, she checked her watch. Then the therapist took this, and the guy I've been paying for the past 2 years. I sat up straighter. This was it. He knew I drove those kids every single week. He knew how much I cared in my professional opinion. The therapist said, adjusting his glasses. The children would benefit. The therapist, Dr. Eris, didn't look at me. He looked at the judge, Judge Holloway, a woman who seemed to view my presence as a clerical error. The children would benefit from a more stable, traditional maternal environment, Eris continued, his voice smooth as polished stone. While Mr. Miller is diligent, there is an underlying rigidity, a fixation on control. The mother's new circumstances provide a breadth of opportunity, socially, educationally, and emotionally, that a single-father household simply cannot match. My heart didn't just sink, it felt like it had been surgically removed. I looked at the binder on the table. For years of receipts. For years of missed sleep. For years of daddy, can we go to the park? Followed by daddy, why is mommy crying on the phone? My lawyer, a man named Henderson who I'd paid $5,000 just to watch him give up, leaned over. He's burying you, Leo. If the court-appointed expert says she's the better fit, the judge is going to sign the order. We might get every other weekend if we're lucky. He's lying, I whispered, my voice cracking. I paid him. I took them there every Friday. She didn't even know his office was on the 3rd floor until last month. Doesn't matter who paid, Henderson muttered. Matters what he says now. Across the aisle, my ex, Sarah, sat next to Julian. Julian was the rich boyfriend. He wore a suit that cost more than my truck. He had his arm around her, looking like the savior of a broken family. Sarah wasn't looking at the kids, who were in the side room with a social worker. She was looking at Julian's Rolex. The court will take a 15-minute recess before final depositions, Judge Holloway announced, her gavel tapping with the finality of a coffin nail. I walked out into the hallway, my vision blurred. I needed air, but I found myself walking toward the children's waiting area. My oldest, Maya, was sitting on a plastic chair. She had her younger brother's head in her lap. He was 6, and he was chewing on his thumb, a habit he only did when he was terrified. My youngest, the 3-year-old, was asleep in a portable crib nearby. Maya looked up. She saw my face and she knew. 11 years old, but she had the eyes of someone who'd seen too many drinking benders and too many empty fridges. Dad, she whispered. I'm working on it, baby, I said, though it was a lie. I'm fighting. She stood up, carefully sliding her brother off her lap. She reached into her small backpack and pulled out the phone I'd bought her. The emergency phone. You said this was for emergencies, she said. Her voice was trembling, but her hands were steady. Maya, not now. I need to talk to the lawyer. No, Veth. Listen. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. Mom took us to Dr. Eris's office last Tuesday. Not for a session. She didn't know I was there. She left me in the waiting room, but the door wasn't shut. Julian was there too. I froze. Julian was at the therapist's. He told Dr. Eris that his foundation was looking for a new board member, a position that pays a lot of money for consulting. Then he asked Dr. Eris if he had finished the stability report for our case. My blood turned to ice. Maya, did you? I was scared, she said. I thought if I recorded it, I could show you why I was upset. I didn't know if it mattered. She handed me the phone. There was a voice memo labeled Tuesday. It was 42 minutes long. I ran back to Henderson. I didn't ask. I grabbed him by the lapels and dragged him into a private consultation room. Listen to this. Now. We hit play. The audio was muffled at first, the sound of a door ajar, the hum of an air conditioner. Then Julian's voice, unmistakable in its arrogance. We're looking for someone with your specific clinical background, Dr. Aris. It's a $60,000 annual retainer. Minimal hours. We just need experts who understand the importance of maternal bonding, especially in high-conflict cases like Sarah's. Then the therapist's voice. I've always felt the mother's role was undervalued in this specific file. Mr. Miller is quite aggressive with his scheduling. It's a bit much for the children. Exactly, Julian said. I'll have my assistant send over the paperwork. I assume your testimony on Friday will reflect this. Clinical insight. Naturally. Henderson's face went from pale to bright red. He wasn't a great lawyer, but he was a father, and he'd just heard a man sell my children's lives for a $60,000 bribe. That's witness tampering, Henderson whispered. That's professional misconduct. That's Jesus, Leo. Your kid saved your life. We walked back into that courtroom, but the man who walked in wasn't the defeated father who had left it. The judge looked at her watch. Mr. Henderson, do you have any closing remarks before I rule on primary custody? Actually, Your Honor, Henderson said, his voice booming for the first time. I would like to recall Dr. Aris to the stand, and I would like to introduce a new piece of evidence. A recording made by a third party on the afternoon of last Tuesday. Sarah's lawyer stood up. Objection. This is highly irregular. Discovery is closed. This evidence pertains to the integrity of the expert witness currently testifying, Henderson countered. Unless Dr. Aris would like to explain his recent consulting offer from the petitioner's boyfriend. The silence in the room was deafening. Dr. Aris, seated in the witness box, turned the color of ash. Julian, the rich boyfriend, tried to stand up, his face contorting into a mask of rage. Sit down, Mr. Vance. The judge snapped at Julian. She looked at Dr. Aris. Doctor? Do you have something to disclose to this court? Aris stammered. I don't see how my private business dealings. Play the tape, the judge ordered. The courtroom speakers played the recording. Every word was clear. The bribe. The collusion. The casual way they spoke about stripping a father of his kids for the sake of Julian's brand, of being a savior to single moms. Sarah started crying. Not though I'm a victim cry she'd used all morning, but a panicked, ugly sob. Julian didn't even look at her. He realized the legal heat was turning on him, and he did what guys like him always do. He headed for the exit. Bailiff, ensure Mr. Vance does not leave the building, Judge Holloway said. Her voice was like a glacier. She turned her gaze to Dr. Aris. You will remain here. I am referring this recording to the State Board and the District Attorney's office. Then she looked at me. For the first time, she really seen me. Not as a rigid father, but as the man who had been the only wall between his kids and this chaos. Mr. Miller, she said. The court apologizes to you. It appears I nearly made a grave error. It took another 3 hours to finalize the emergency orders. Full legal and physical custody. Sarah was granted supervised visitation only, pending a substance abuse evaluation and a psych report, one not written by Dr. Aris. When I walked out of that courtroom for the last time, the sun was setting, casting long, golden shadows across the pavement. I saw my kids. Maya was standing by the car, holding the 2 younger ones. She looked older than 11. She looked like someone who had just won a war. I walked up to her and pulled her into a hug so tight I thought I'd never let go. You did it. I whispered into her hair. You came in clutch, Maya. You saved us. She pulled back, a small, tired smile on her face. She handed me the phone. The battery's almost dead, Dad. It's okay, I said, taking her hand and leading them to the truck. We don't need it anymore. We're going home. As we drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. I saw Julian being led into a side office by a police officer. I saw Sarah sitting on the curb, alone, realizing that her rich boyfriend was gone and her kids were finally out of her reach. I took the binder from the passenger seat, the one my friend called paranoid, and I put it in the glove box. I wouldn't need it for a long time, because for the first time in 11 years, I wasn't just a father fighting for a chance. I was a father who had won, and the girl who had made me a dad at 17 had just grown up and returned the favor. We stopped for ice cream on the way home. I didn't care about the sugar, the time, or the mess. I just sat there, watching them eat, listening to my youngest call me daddy, over and over again. It was the best $60 I'd ever spent, not on a therapist, but on a cheap plastic phone and a daughter who knew exactly when to use it.